I had three pretty young kids at home. I had a husband who was away with his job, and I had kept going up that ladder and up that ladder until I was at the top, and I was managing it all as many gals do. I, had all the plates spinning, and I thought I was doing a damn good job of it. And we started a big project and it was completely torn apart. Again, I have these three little kids. We had to move out, and I get a call from my dad, who was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And I thought, okay, I can handle this. I got this. And so I kept spinning all those plates, and I added another one. Then my mom called, and she had a massive stroke. And so I had all of these things that were on top of me. And I remember being in South America on a business trip, and I got a call from my dad, and he said, I'm at the hospital, and there was a problem with something with his insurance. And I knew it was something that if I spent enough time on the phone, I could figure it out. So I had a choice to make. Do I get on this flight and get back home to my three kids and get on to the million other things I need to do for my job? Or do I miss this flight and sit here on the phone with the insurance to get my dad this treatment that he desperately needed to have that day?
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, I'm a person of faith. I told my dad, I said, Dad, I got to call you back. And I put the phone down, and I said a little prayer, and I was like, I literally need some help here. I cannot keep all these plates in the air. I cannot continue to do this, because the worst thing has not happened to me yet, which is that I kill myself, running myself into the ground, and I had to leave three little kids without a mom. And so it really was a lens that I used to reevaluate what I was doing every day and whether or not it was something that really filled my tank. Because there's a lot of things that you can do to make money, but things that fill your tank and that you have a passion around. And in that moment, I realized my passions had shifted. I had other priorities. And so I went to my boss at the time, and I said, this is not, I don't think I can give you what you really want. And this is certainly not what I want. And we both deserve better than that.
Welcome to Midlife Remix, the podcast that explores midlife transitions and how people have reshaped their careers and lives to focus on what truly matters. I'm StevenMiyao, a coach who helps guide professionals through these often challenging but rewarding pivots. Each episode wraps up with an inspiring exercise to help you turn insights into action and move forward on your journey. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to have Kim Mustin on today on the Midlife Remix. Kim has been a good friend, client, inspiration to me over many, many years. Her first part of her career was primarily in asset management, where she was at companies like Mason, BNY Mellon. Now she has made a pivot into wealth management, and she is the managing director at Bernstein Private Wealth Management. I know Kim as a transformative leader, a mentor to a lot of people, and just a very good person who never really thinks about, what she can get out of the situation, but really how she can help others. And I'm very appreciative of that, Kim, and thank you and welcome on the podcast.
Thank you so much for that really amazing introduction. Thank you so much. Never did I think I'd be so excited about talking about something with midlife in the middle of it, but I'm super excited to be here talking to you today.
You were a senior executive at an asset management company, and you left that position and you were searching for something else. And we had a lot of conversations at that time, and you were really soul searching, and then you made this pivot.
Yeah. Well, I want to give a big shout out to you as being somebody that I sought some sage advice from and counsel. And so then I was faced with that decision of what do I do? What do I want to do next? And so I took some time, and I was really purposeful about what I wanted, and giving that space and that time to myself for a few months to get these things in order really was, and to talk to people like you, was really clarifying to me that I couldn't go back to doing what I was doing before. It wasn't about shifting to a different company, doing the same thing. It was about doing something radically different. And so I had never even really thought about wealth management at the time. I wrapped myself over the head and I said, "Oh my gosh, why did I never think of this before?" This is the perfect combination of blending my life, the markets, problem solving, leading really high functioning teams together. So it was just this perfect combination of what gives me passion. It's a definitely a high growth business, which I enjoy working inside of. And so, almost 8 years later, here I am, like still having a great time every day.
You said so many important things, and so many of our listeners are dealing with exactly the same issue that you're dealing with, that they're just midlife is just very taxing. You have these aging parents that you're taking care of. You still have kids that you have to take care of. And then we have these very demanding careers, and we recognize that something has to give and something has to change.
Yeah. Well, I think that corporate America has wisened up to the fact that like women are really critical to their success. I remember when I had my first child, it was during the global financial crisis, and I had to go back to work 2 weeks later. Like I was not my best version of myself for anybody to go back. And I think that both maternity and paternity leaves have, so I think it's important for dads to be a part of the exciting birth of a child too, and, have those bonding moments. I think as a leader too, one of the things that we talk about, and I think, I encourage my male to do this. When you're leaving, leave loudly. So if you're leaving because you're going to go to your kid's soccer match, like tell people, bye everybody. It's 4:30. The kid's playing in a big soccer game tonight. I'll be rooting for them from the sidelines, because that lets the next generation know that you can't do that every day, but for special things, you can do that. Or whenever I'm have a sick kid and whatever the reason, I got to take him to the hospital or something, I let people know that, because I think it's important you bring your whole life to work. You may keep it inside, but it's still with you. And I think we have to give some grace to each other.
What recommendations would you have for people who are in this transition? What really worked for you? What are some things that you would recommend that they do?
I think that one of the best things that I ever did was I sat down and I wrote a list of things that I think I'm good at. And it wasn't, I'm really good at working in at this asset management function or talking to this person. It was, I'm good at problem solving. I'm good at creating, you know, bespoke financial solutions that meet client needs. I'm good at leading high performing sales teams. I made a big list of those things, and I really challenged myself on, am I putting everything down on this piece of paper that I really think I'm good at? Because I also think that women leaders in particular, we don't brag enough about ourselves, but I really tried to be very thorough. And then I tested myself. Am I really good at all these things? And then I wrote like passions and things that I really like enjoy doing. And then I overlaid that with, now how can I use my skills and experiences to fuel passions to help lead another effort in another place? It turns out I like building long-term relationships with people. So that was a really helpful exercise, I think, was doing that. And I also asked people around me, is this the right list? Are these the things that I'm good at? And so I think being honest with yourself is really helpful.
I think that's great advice. I do that exercise with all of my clients, and the concept that I try to use is something that's called zone of genius, right? So
Ooh, I love that.
there are many things that we are good at, but we might actually not enjoy. Or sometimes that there are things that we're not good at, but we still are doing. And
Yeah.
and then really this pinnacle is where we're really good at it, better than anybody else. And also we're really passionate about it, so it doesn't really feel like work as much. And that's
Mm.
what somebody coined as the zone of genius. And I think you found your zone of genius.
So I think sometimes when you get so focused about, I used to do this one particular type, I used to work at a hedge fund, so I need to work at another hedge fund, or I had a head of sales job. Now I need to be a regional head of sales and in the same industry. Sometimes the other options are right in front of your nose, but you're so linear and focused in what you want to do because you think that that's all you're good at, but you're really not. And that list is so helpful to remind you.
Most people try to jump from one job to the next and don't take the time to really reflect. And it takes time to not do anything to be able to have that space to actually be able to think freely and open. And so, as you said, something that was, right under your nose, you couldn't see because everything was just too close.
Yeah. And you were one of the people who said, just take a moment to breathe. You like reflect and sort this out. So I'm forever grateful for you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Do you have a good recommendation for somebody that is pivoting, a book or a podcast or something?
For women, Nia Finette has two books that she's written about the most important person in the room is you. She has a new one about confidence, and she's got a third one that's coming out. So she has a lot of good things about, I think as women, sometimes I notice they suffer from imposter syndrome. Like, am I supposed to be in this room? Am I good enough for this role? And so um, I've read a few of those books.
I think that that's a really important concept because I have this with a lot of my clients. My female clients tend to not be able to talk about what they've done as much as my male clients, or even more stark when they're going for a job. They're like, well, I haven't really done this before. Whereas my male clients will be like, oh yeah, of course I can do this.
Yeah.
Talk about that, and talk about how you get over that, or how you adjust to that, because obviously it is important that you're communicating to the world who you are and what the value is that you're providing.
Yeah. So people will believe you when you tell them things. So I have to start with that. So if I say to you, gosh, I'm really not good at negotiation, I believe that you are not. Right. So if you say it, it manifests itself. If I say to people, and you have to have some relevancy to be there, but if I say to people, I'm really good at negotiating. And how I do that is I try to understand what the other party needs to feel like is a win. And then I need to understand what I need to have walking out of this. And then I start working on common ground. And how I do it is A, B, C, D, E, right? It's really taking that, like making that statement and then walking people through how you think about it. So I always encourage people to start small, because then you feel same thing with asking for things. I think women don't ask for things enough. But I think practicing that is something that we don't do enough of. And you have to have things that back up your claims, but there's some insanely talented women who just don't give themselves enough credit. And I think as leaders in business, when I see that they don't, I call them out on it, not in the meeting, but afterwards. I'll say, I was with a female associate the other day, and we were in a meeting, and it was very tense, and she very confidently pushed back on something, and she held her ground. And so afterwards I said, I just want to let you know that you did a great job there, and you did it, and you didn't make anybody feel badly, but you stood your ground, and you should be proud of yourself. And I think as allies around talent, particularly for female talent, that's so important to say you're on the right track.
Let's talk about mentorship, because what I've experienced, secondhand, obviously through my client and my wife, is that it seems like it's harder for women to find mentors in their work. And I know you're a great mentor, and that's, I introduced you as that. If you could talk about that, I think that would be very helpful for people.
So sometimes people come to me and they'll say, "Will you be my mentor?" And I bristle at the thought of that. But what I say to them is, "Tell me what you think that I do that I could be helpful to you with." Because as I was like going through the early part of my career and even still today, I saw things in my male counterparts because there just weren't that many women back then. But I saw things in my male counterparts that I would say that I really respected about them. And so whenever I was going to do something, so if I was going to negotiate like my salary or something, I would go to a guy that I knew was really good at it. And I'd say, "Hey, you know what? I really respect the way that you advocated for that additional responsibility. And now you've got this title, and I'm assuming some requisite compensation to go along with it. I am in line for this project, and I would really like to get some advice from you on how I should go about thinking about that, and whether it's role playing a conversation or whatever." So I use my mentors in very, very specific ways. Or I had this one guy, Mike, who early in my career, I would get so upset about something and I would sit down and I'd write this tome of an email. And then I would take it and I'd go into his office and I'd have it printed out and I'd say, "I'm so upset about what happened in that meeting. And I wrote this email." And he would tear it up and start over. And it would end up being like three beautifully like written sentences that didn't show any ire at all and made me look way more confident than being defensive back with, 5 pages of stuff. So I always used him for those types of things. And so I think finding somebody that it's helping you behaviorally. But what I do believe strongly in is finding a sponsor, because I think the difference is a mentor is trying to shape you. A sponsor is pounding on the table for you when you're not in the room. And I think you need a lot more sponsorship for key talent inside of organizations or even outside of organizations. I have people who are maybe have left a career someplace else and they call me and they say, "When I worked with you, you always said that I did this thing really well. And I'm up for this job. And I want to just talk to you about how you think I should position myself." And I'm like, "You should tell them to call me because I'm going to tell them that they will not find anybody better at doing this thing." So I think finding your sponsors is really important. And then the last thing I'll just say about mentorship is something that I've done for a few years now is that I have a reverse mentor. So I asked someone who's like younger than me, has a better playlist on their, Apple playlist.
Hmm.
I asked them to mentor me as like an older person because I want to stay relevant with the future generations of our firm. And so whenever I leave a meeting and I say, "What were the three things that you took away from that?" If there are three things that I didn't intend to be my three things, I'm like, "Okay, I have to do this better next time. So let me work on how would you say this differently?" And that has been not only a really fun and rewarding thing for me, but I think it also has been fun and rewarding for them. But the key is you got to find somebody who is going to stand up to you and really tell you the truth and not just yes you. So
I think that's an amazing thing that I will definitely adopt. I have not. I mean, I've done this informally, and I always like working with young people because as you said, you always learn something new, and it seems specifically Gen Z are so different than we are.
yeah,
And I know we've talked about this. It can sometimes be frustrating for our generation to work with Gen Z, but in some way, I really admire them too because they they have the work-life balance and their priorities definitely figured out. Do they always communicate that in the right way to us? Probably not, right? And that's where
and they have passion and
they have passions. Yeah.
yes,
So now that we have to admit that we're in midlife, Has your has your has your definition of success changed from when you were young?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. So much. I think about whenever I was in my 20s and I was really trying to become an expert at something. You wanted to have those foundational building blocks. And when I was in my 30s, I feel like I was I was trying to exploit them for my personal reward. So, I was using them to get bigger clients and, win business and get advanced inside of my company, get more compensation. As I got into my 40s and now in my 50s, I really found that I derive so much joy from seeing other people do that. And so putting somebody in a position to be successful and supporting them in that success is immensely rewarding to me. And I don't need to be a part of their victory lap at all because it is for me, it is, I only have, you know, a numbered amount of days left that I want to do this. There's other things that I want to do in my next chapter. And every day I have a countdown clock for my desired retirement date. And I look at it every morning and I don't look at it and go, oh, God, I only have so many days left that I have to, I got to get up and do this every day. I look at it and say, holy Hannah, I only have this many days to do all the things that I want to do. And so I think it gives me a lot of purpose coming in to my work every day. But it also lets me know because part of that is legacy. I have two daughters, and if they choose this path, I want them to come into a place where they feel like they can bring their whole self to work every day. I don't want them to wait 17 years to have their first child because they feel like that they wouldn't get on those assignments. And so I've been working really hard to make sure that we have, senior female leaders and male leaders too.
What would be your main advice to a male leader, male executive on how to approach women and how to be an advocate for women in the workplace?
Yeah, I think having really honest conversations with them. I think one of the things that we've heard from our male managers is I'm afraid to give the same type of feedback to a female colleague than I am to give to a male colleague. And so I think that, we feedback is a gift. That's how we get better. And so I think having them have some scaffolding around how they do those conversations in a way that's going to get across the points that need to help this woman get better at what she's doing, but also have that in the end feel like he's not putting himself, at career risk by giving this type of feedback. That's been one of the big things. And earlier on in my career, I got some very candid feedback that was unabashed, but that made me better. And I didn't make the same mistakes twice. And I tried harder. And now I think we do have a kinder, gentler work environment, which is terrific. But that if you aren't giving people feedback and you aren't pushing them, it just doesn't make for a great organization. And so supporting them in those conversations, I think is really important.
The last thing I want to talk to you about is which I'm always so impressed with you is that you seem to have this quiet confidence about yourself, and you ask people, the questions that you need to ask them, and you advocate for yourself when you need to. Where did that confidence come from? A, and then B, are there moments where you are questioning your own confidence?
Such a good question. I'll answer the second question first. Every day, like every day. And where did I get this quiet confidence from? It's that whole cocktail, that blender. It's been from mentors that I've seen that have done things. It's for my cheering squad that is around me that gives me confidence. It's through pushing myself. If you aren't pushing yourself to do something that feels a little uncomfortable, like maybe not every day, but every week for sure, you really aren't growing. Like I said earlier, people, if you tell people that you're good at something, they will believe you. You have to just say, like, I can do this. And then you have to manifest it and will it to happen through hard work, creativity, curiosity, because people are rooting for your success. If they're not, you're in the wrong business, you're in the wrong firm, and they should come hire you to help them figure out where they should be going next.
Kim, thank you so much for your time. A lot of great insights from you, and always lovely to talk to you. You always are truly an inspiration to me. I appreciate it a lot.
Oh, right back at you. You've been such a great role model, mentor. You have such a calm presence and such a North Star for what you want to, for good work and doing good things in the world. So thank you for always being a good friend.
Today I'm sharing a simple but powerful exercise inspired by Kim Mustin. It's all about aligning your skills and passion to uncover new opportunities. Write down everything you're good at beyond just your job title. For example, I'm good at problem solving, I'm good at mentoring others. Push for at least 10 items. If you're struggling, imagine what a friend or colleague would write about you. Next, list the activities or topics that light you up. Ask yourself, what brings me joy? When do I feel most energized? Now, look at both lists and ask, where do my skills and passion intersect? How can I use my skills to fuel what I love? This is your sweet spot. You can pick one idea and take a small step this week. Maybe you'll reach out to a mentor, sign up for a class, or reflect further. Progress begins with action.